If done right, and if this closed approach is done right, can it ultimately just succeed and win?
I mean, there are different levels of succeeding. I mean, I think in a consumer marketplace it can succeed. For every consumer, it ultimately is, there's going to be places where it breaks down. And we've seen time and time again places where Apple says you can't put this in the App Store. We don't, we don't want this book with these pictures as an app in the store, and even classic stuff, not hardcore porno, right? Like books that they've done things where it's very questionable. Like you or I might say, I'm not 100%. This is not 100% for me, or I'm not 100% comfortable with this. So the thing is, it can win from an economic standpoint. It obviously can win for Apple. Is there a way to do it where you say we ultimately will review and control everything that goes into this device? Like I think that is the wrong direction. I mean, I think it's a direction you can win doing it, but I think that it is not. It doesn't serve the wide audience. I think but it serves a very wide audience.
What do you think?
Well, obviously, Apple's not winning. Android's the dominant smartphone platform in the U.S. And that's happened in a relatively short period of time, because we had almost a year with Android and a T-Mobile G1, and then we had nothing else. And then we've had an absolute explosion of, like 80 different models, Android phones out there in the marketplace. People are buying them, they're using them, they are excited about them. And, Apple is not ceding control, but it is interesting to me that we're, now they're on 2 carriers. It makes them a tiny bit more like everyone else. And just because Steve Jobs says he'll never do something, it doesn't really mean anything. He would never build a phone, yet he did build a phone. There are time and time again where he tells us he won't do something till he will. And certainly, as a smart, savvy company, they will have to respond at some point to basically the magic that is happening in the Android world, because I love to use that magical.
Yeah.
There's some big stuff happening there, and you can't ignore it. And Apple has done well by growing, expanding the iPhone into multiple carriers, getting more people into the tent, but it's a closed tent.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that. I mean, Android is winning. I mean, it's a narrow margin right now in terms of the overall devices out in the marketplace and in consumers' hands. But Android is winning, and they've had this huge gain over the last year or so. And one of the reasons is because, I mean, it's what's weird about this is that it feels like we're watching the Mac and PC race again, where Apple said, our way, our hardware, we're not going to share this with anybody. We're going to do it the way we want to do it, and you've got to like it. And Microsoft said, we'll sell this to anybody. You want to make a computer, you can put it on any computer you want as long as you pay for our license. And what happened is lots of people started making cheap PCs. The prices got driven down. Every consumer could buy one. I mean, there's a lot of factors, but this is so similar with the phone race now, the smartphone race, where you've got Apple with their closed system, their closed device. They're 2 carriers in America. Not that they have them all over the world, but it's not like Android where, I mean, I could, if I wanted to start a company that sells an Android device, it wouldn't be very difficult.
Right.
And that has really, I mean, that has supercharged the sale of these phones, and it's allowed people to do things like make free or $50 Android phones, where, I mean, Apple's now starting to sell their older phones at lower prices. But
right, I obviously wouldn't suggest that a roadmap for Android success is free or low-price phones, because we know what happened with RIM and BlackBerry. They basically gave away so many phones and had big market share, and now we're watching it rapidly decline because they have exciting phones that people wanted out there. Certainly the Android community and the manufacturers that are behind it understand you have to make exciting phones, and that is something they learned from Apple, because Apple made products that were exciting, that people had to have. There was this sex appeal that you could not deny. And when you looked at the first Droid, and you looked at the Evo, and you looked at these giant widescreen high-definition devices, that you put in your pocket, people wanted to be near them. They wanted to see them. They wanted to try them out.
Voice? You sound legitimately excited. No, but it's true. It is true. Apple did. It's so funny, but they did kickstart this idea before the iPhone. We never saw big launches for phones. I mean, it was unheard of. I mean, do you remember attending an event? I remember the G1 had a big launch event, and then it just started snowballing. And everybody, whenever they released a phone, they had to have a big event for it. And now it's like you've got these Halo devices. There's huge events. They have, they do the conferences, and they make a big deal out of it. And that is all Apple's doing. I mean, if you don't make a really sexy device and make a big show of it, you're just everybody else.